Well, good afternoon, or almost afternoon. Back in the workshop again. I'm going to try and keep it short this time because the last one was a bit of a long one, so hopefully not too much waffle from me. This is a quick one about the lathe, and it's from Anthony Thomas, and he asked me what adjustments are required to keep the lathe in top form. So I take it he means accurate, and the second one is what mods have I done to make it easier to or improve it, repair it, whatever. Oh, lots of rattling out there. Yes, so I'll answer the first one first, which is kind of logical, really, isn't it? So there's how do you keep a lathe accurate? Well, there's lots of people on YouTube doing videos. I'm thinking of Blondie Hacks, Tubal Kane, and a few others, because it's an important thing to do. I do it every 12 months or so, or in particular if I'm going to be doing something in particular where I'm going to be turning a long axle or a long bar. I'm thinking more, I mean, like this draw bar here, and we'll see in a minute. I'll just do a quick run through on the lathe on how I do it. Like I say, hopefully it won't take long, so I'll be back in a minute or two. Okay, the first thing you need to keep in trim is your Jib Strips, or Jib Strips, call them what you will. They stop any, if you like, sideways jiggling on the lathe. They keep this sort of running nice and smooth against the bed, and these can be done on this lathe. You've got 4 down this side. The big one there is the lock. On the little one here, you've got, or rather on the cross slide, you've got 2 there, and there's the carriage lock there. And if I bring you guys down underneath, okay, you've got 2 on your carriage. There's one here, there's one at the other end, and this is your carriage lock. Okay, you adjust those so that there's free movement only, but when you grab it and shake it, you know, there's no side to side. You know, if you're grabbing it and shaking it, there's no rocking in the beds. There's no rocking on the carriages. That's the first thing I do. The next thing is check that the bed is flat or is true. You don't want any twist in it. So I'll just set that up and we'll show you how I do that. So the first thing I'm going to look at is checking that the bed's not twisted. Yeah. Some might settle over time. It might be an old lathe you bought that you don't know the provenance, that you're not quite sure the provenance of, and that's been twisted due to getting it shipped to you. Or it might be a new one, and you're hoping it once again that it's not been damaged in shipping. So I use one of these. Yeah, it's a digital angle gauge. It has multiple uses, but one of the uses is for checking whether the bed is level. Okay, so we turn it on and I zero it, and I'd normally start up at this end. Now I'd run the carriage, I'd zero it here, and I'd run the carriage back as far as I could get it. And if there's any twist in the bed, it would show up on the gauge. Yeah. And then what you'd have to do, you'd have to shim up on one of your feet to see if you could take it out, as it were. Or if it's got adjustable feet, you could adjust them. So yeah, so digital angle gauge used for measuring twist on the bed. Next one. Another alignment tip is an important one. If you're check whether you're going to be turning a taper. You don't want to be turning tapers unless you plan on turning a taper intentionally. So what you need to do, if it's anywhere's out, it'll be at the tailstock. So what I normally have, I have 2 dead centers and an accurate bar. This is the lathe shaft out of a British Leyland Mini, and it's well, for British Leyland it's a pretty nice bit of machining. So pop that one in there, pop that one in there. Excuse my arm. I'm just going to try and give you a... Come on, stop being an idiot. Right. So that there now is between the two. So what I do now is I'll just go and get it. It's over here. Here's right, I would now set up my dial gauge. Okay, I've got a dial gauge there, so that it's resting. So it's resting on the shaft at this end. I'll then zero it out, and then run the carriage back to this end. Yeah, or you could do it the other way. You could zero it here and run it here, and you'll see any misalignment on this. On the tailstock. If the tailstock is misaligned, you can adjust it. I'll show you. I'll stick a photograph up. There's two bolts, one either side here, and there's an adjustment screw on either side there. It's more or less the same on most lathes. I think it certainly was on the Harrison we had up at the school. So yeah, this is very important. If I am, like I said before, if I'm going to be turning a long shaft like a drawbar, this drawbar here, then I don't want to be turning a taper. You know, if I want it 10 mil at one end, it needs to be 10 mil all the way along. Yeah, not 10 mil at this end and 9.8 at this end. It's absolutely pointless. So this is very important, very, very important. And those basically are the main checks I do on the lathe. I do one with the 3-jaw chuck, but I don't do it very often because 3-jaw chucks are inherently inaccurate anyway. And if I'm turning small stuff, then I use the collet chuck setup that I've got. So that's basically the adjustments I do. Another thing I do is every year I change the oil in the headstock. It's easy enough to do. You've got a sight glass cum drain plug there, and you just undo that, and oil pisses all over the place, and you clean up the mess. To refill it now, it says in the book to refill up to the sight glass, okay, which would put your level about here. Now, the lathe shaft for your gearbox is here. Now, I normally fill mine. I normally put a fair amount in. I normally fill mine up to about this level. If you fill it too full, it comes out the scroll. There's a scroll oil seal at the top, and it comes out of there and flings it all over the place. But if you put just enough in, and more than it says in the book, because it's a Chinese lathe, there are, I suppose, the tolerances are not brilliant, shall we say, but they're good enough. So I like to keep it well lubed in there and change it every year. Yeah. When you've drained the oil, you go in there and you scoop it out, usually with, I mean, I go in with, where's my doob? I normally stick my scribe in there, yeah, and I scoop it out and stick a magnet in there. Where is it? There we go. Stick my little magnet in there, just to make sure that there's no metal filings in there, which is indicative, of course, of a bearing coming adrift or your gears wearing out. Yes, I do that every year too. But you can do it all at the same time. Take a day out, maintain the lathe, clean it down, oil the bed, lube all the bearings, and yeah, I mean, I've had this for about 15 years, and it does everything I want it to, and it does it accurately, but you've got to keep on top of this. You've got to remember it's a Chinese lathe, and you've got to keep on top of things. So accuracy wise, that's about it. One of the first mods I did was to get rid of the horrible tool post and replace it with this quick change tool post. Okay, so you've got your standard, and it is every time you change a tool you've got the shimmy top, and so you know half the time when you're doing a job is your shimming tools up in one of these. I mean, I did have it so that you've got two tools, but yeah, I didn't like it at all, so got one of these. And so it's quite easy now when you're changing your tool in. You've all seen them in use. Yeah, you already preset the height at some future date. So if you want to change your tool in, it's a piece of cake. One out. Oh, come on, one in, and you don't have to mess about. Yeah. Whereas before you'd have to mess about shimming it up. You don't have to do that with the cool quick change tool post, but you've already set up your tooling heights. So get rid of that. Next, what other? Yes, one thing I did. I'll have to pick you up for this. I don't know how well this is going to work. On the drill head here, this lever here. The OEM, right, is this size. Yeah, it's quite a short one, and you really got to lock this down hard. Yeah, so a nice big lever, give yourself plenty of leverage. Yeah, so that you can lock this, good and steady, so that it's not going anywhere. So yeah, that was another one I did. Yeah, I suppose lighting is a thing. The lighting on the lathe is 12 volt LED. I've got a really bright one, a not so bright one, and up above us there, not whether we can get up there. Up above us there is about 80 watts of light from a bunch of LEDs, all being run from a repurposed ATX power supply. What else have we done? I put a little shelf there so that I can rest my light on, or my dial gauge. Yes, we've got a coolant. Okay, this is fed up. I normally connect this pipe to the end, but I don't use coolant very often. I only use it if I'm cutting some really hard stuff, which I haven't done for a while, and that gets fed from if we come down here. Yeah, so we've got the car washer bolt reservoir, and there's a little washer pump attached to that. Once again, runs off the 12 volt power supply, and that's adjustable. If I bring this back up again, back in, that's adjustable here. Yeah. 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 And I use a soluble oil coolant in that. Okay. That's a little, once again, a little Chinese module. It just controls it. See, it's not, you don't want it flat out all the time. You might just want a little dribble because it makes a mess. Yeah, and then that drains in the bed. There is a drain hole, and that drains back into the little reservoir down there. Let's bring us back again. Okay. The first one is this collar here. Now this is the clutch collar that switches the clutch between the headstock, or if you like your headstock drive, to your drill head. And it was this little plastic dealie. and I've put up with it for years, but I really didn't like it. So yeah, so I made myself a metal one. Took me a day, quite enjoyed it. Getting back to basics, if you like. So that was one, and the other one, let me just close this up. Oh yeah, I replaced the little handle at the top there because the original one broke off. Yeah, Chinese quality. Isn't the best, but like I say, this lathe, it is what it is, and it works fine for me. Bring the drill head round now. On the drill head, right, I know the lighting's not the best at the moment, but still, there we go. What we've got on the drill head is this here, which carries the oil seal, if you like, for your drive down the head. Now, what it was, the original one, this is the plastic one, and it had a felt collar in there, and it leaked. It was rubbish. I put an O-ring in to try and make it better. That didn't make it any better, so I thought, right, so I worked out what size oil seal I wanted, and I made a replacement. Once again, going back to basics, that was a nice thing to do. I thought I enjoyed that one. It's nice to, if you like, make your own stuff. Right, I suppose you could class this in a mod. Sometimes you've got to make your own tooling because you haven't got what you want and you need it sort of within 24 hours, and you know, unless you want to pay extra for next day postage, I suppose. Some of the stuff is fairly logical, like centering stuff in the three-jaw chuck. You'll have seen it on YouTube. Basically, it's a little bar with a roller bearing on the end, and all you're doing is this is going to be rotating like that in your three-jaw chuck, yeah, and you just press this on the end, and that centers it nicely. Then you lock your chuck up, everything's done. One of the first things I made this, it's, yeah, lovely little thing. It's basic, nothing fancy. What else have we got? I acquired quite earlier on, I was sent by some friends of mine, lots of inserts, but I didn't have any insert holders. So, but I had plenty of flat steel, so I made some. There's one. There's another one there. Yeah, just what I needed at the time, and also made if you like, a fly cutter using an insert. I saw what the commercial boys were doing, and I made one myself. Sometimes you've got to improvise. So if you say you want to make a dome on a nut, yeah, you could either purchase a magic tool for making ball ends on things, or you can make one yourself. If you've got I didn't have enough steel when I wanted this, certainly not the right sizes, but what I did have is I had some carbide router bits. So what I did, I made a holder, and there's the carbide router, yeah, and I just used that very gently on the end, and it puts a nice dome on nuts. It really does, especially if you run over it afterwards with a little bit of carbon paper. One last one in here. Oh, it hasn't got a tip in it. Never mind. We'll forget about that one then. So yeah, so make your own tooling. It's another little exercise on. I mean, it's quite busy out there today. It's another little exercise on doing stuff. Anything else I've done on the lathe other than I rewired it early on this year because the wiring had perished, so it had to be rewired. Wiring diagrams for these are available online, same as the instruction book. If you haven't got if you picked up one of these, you didn't get one of the instruction book. Most of the stuff you need is in there. I mean, it tells you how to adjust the strips and how to set up for turning tapers. I try not to turn tapers because it's such a faff trying to get the lathe realigned afterwards. But yeah, so anyway, I hope, Anthony, I hope that answers your questions. I bought loads of other things for it, a fixed steady, a travelling steady, a face plate, a turning block, all kinds of stuff. I mean, the latest thing I've got is I've got an M4 tapered collet chuck to go in the headstock, but not one to go in the drill. So I bought one the other day, and it works a treat, which just happens to be what this drawbar's for, because I made that as well. Yeah, why buy one when you can make it if you got the stuff kicking around? So yeah, so it's you can never. It's like motorcycles, I suppose. Lathe tooling, you can never have enough. Motorcycles, you can never have enough. I suppose some car owners are like that. I suppose if you've got a hobby, yeah, you can never have too much of it. So yeah, but anyway, I'm waffling again. I knew I would. Anyway, let's get back on track. That's it. I hope that helps and gives you an insight. But like I say, if you're unsure, look in the book, look online. Blondie Hacks, Tubal Cane, myself. We all do the same sort of thing. They're possibly a little bored. Certainly Tubal Cane is one of the most experienced guys out there for this kind of stuff. And what he doesn't know, I suppose, isn't worth writing home about. So yeah, take care, all the best, and we'll see you again in the future. Hopefully with some more stuff from the Heritage Centre. So take care out there, and I'll see you again soon. Bye for now.